All right, guys, got a quick one today. We're going to be talking about metadata. In the last one, we talked about keywords. Metadata is very similar, but you can see we're here in the library panel once again, and we have the metadata pane expanded. And what metadata is it's the additional information that is stored on the image file itself. And depending on your camera, some metadata might be filled in and some might not be. So in this example, I shoot with the Nikon D700, and you can see for this image, it automatically fills in my exposure settings. So this is my shutter speed, f-stop, the dimensions of the file, ISO, focal length, and the lens that I was using. So you might see something different depending on your camera and what your camera does. I've also set in my camera to have the copyright filled out to be my name for all of my images. So again, depending on your camera, what you're shooting with, you might see different information here. If you have one of those slick DSLR cameras, you might see a little bit more information. At the top here, you can see this is showing the default metadata set, but there's a bunch of other metadata in here. There's EXIF data, which is the make and model of the camera and the exposure settings that I was just showing. There's also this IPTC data, which has the contact information you can put in here. If you have a website, email address, phone, you can actually edit all of this stuff and add it. So I can say creator Joshua Davis. I could add my actual address and location if you want to. And as you can see here, you have presets. So you can edit presets and you can edit all of this metadata, create a preset for it. So I can add my name, my creator, my address, city, all of that stuff, and it will be stored on the file. I can create a preset using this, save it, and then if you remember during our import, see it's asking me if I want to save it right now, I'm going to say no. But if you remember when we were importing our photos, we had the ability to select a metadata preset. So if you choose to use this, you can have a preset that has your contact information, your phone number, already set up here and apply it right to the image. And when you export the image, this will actually be stored on the image file itself. And you'll be able to see by going to the actual image file. This is, if you're adding this metadata in Lightroom, it'll be after you export it. You won't see it by default if you just go to the actual image file straight from your camera, if your camera isn't set up to set this. So when you export the photo from Lightroom, which we'll get to later in the course, then that's when you will see any of this metadata that you've added within Lightroom. But for now, you can just see the default metadata for these images straight out of my camera by right-clicking on your image, going to Properties, and then go to Details, and you can see here's that EXIF data. So my Nikon D700, my exposure settings, but you won't see any of that IPTC data in here because that gets added after the fact in Lightroom, and you would only see it on the exported file, if that makes sense. So that's pretty much it from a metadata standpoint. Again, this is not something that I really use. The only thing I leverage is what is set by my camera, and that's mainly what you can see in the default view here. I've gone into my camera and I've specifically said for copyright, I want my name to be on all of the images, but I don't want my personal contact information in there. That kind of seems like a bad idea personally, but again, you might find some use for it. And just as with keywords, all of this stuff is searchable and filterable, and you can create smart collections and all that good stuff in Lightroom. So just as a quick example, up here in the metadata, you can see I can actually filter these images by the lens that I use. So I want to see all of the images that I took with my 35mm lens. If I click that, it's going to show me all those photos. If I want to see everything I took with my 105 f2, I click that and it will show me all of those photos. So that's metadata. And as I mentioned before, I don't really use this except for the default stuff that comes out of the camera and that copyright that I add. But as I showed previously, you can go in and create a new preset. If you want to have all of your contact information and everything tied to the photos, you can do that. But I don't. And that's pretty much it for metadata. In the next videos, we're going to get into the other ways or the other options that Lightroom gives you for marking your photos. There's colors, there's flagging, and there's ratings. And we're going to get into that in the next one. But that's metadata, and that's it for this one. It was kind of a quickie. Please feel free to like, subscribe, leave comments, all that good stuff. It's a big help to getting these videos viewed, and if you like the content, it incentivizes me to make more videos. So thanks again for checking this out, and I will see you guys in the next one. Cheers.